Excellent. Okay. So once again, I'm going to start with a very important message, and that is thank you, each and every one of you who have volunteered to teach class for University of Scouting. On behalf of our entire planning team, Pat's here to agree with me. We very much appreciate it. We very much appreciate that every single one of you have said, yes, I will teach somewhere between 1 and 6 classes. Tim isn't on yet, and he may be trying to catch up on sleep because he somehow ended up volunteering for 6, which is crazy. So thank you. We very much appreciate it. This would not happen without each and every one of you being a part of this. So thanks. And each and every one of you should also have received at least one, what I call big hairy email with links. Everybody, show me a hand, big hairy email with links, except for Pat. Pat, you're not teaching, right? But you got a link to a list of what classes you're teaching. If you're Joe Davis, you got a couple because I forgot one and we fixed it. And then, oh gosh, I'm blanking on names. I've been fixing some issues over the past few days, but hopefully all that makes sense. You can access your Google Drive space. Katie, have you tried uploading anything yet? No? Okay. If you have issues, just let me know. I think it was Ian. I had a hard time. Somehow I messed up on your email. I added you just the wrong thing. It's working now, right? You can throw stuff. Okay, cool. So please let me know if there are any issues. Otherwise, you should have the data that you need at this point, I believe. Right, Joe? You've got all the stuff, I think? Yes, maybe? Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm going to bring to you some interesting learning things that I took away from something this weekend. I attended the Chief Seattle Council's Program and Training Conference on Saturday, the Saturday past. And I was pointed at it about a week ago from Cheryl. She said, hey, somebody should go to this because they're on the same platform that we're going to be on. And I scratched my head for about 3 femtoseconds and said, okay, fine, I'll go. I got nothing better to do on a Saturday. And it was an interesting experience. I learned a little bit about what it is to be obviously a participant on this platform. And I learned some things that I wanted to share with each of you in terms of how you can make your experience as an instructor better and the experience of the participants a little bit better in terms of your presentation and whatnot. And the very first thing I'm going to remind everyone is, seriously, go watch Katie's videos. She's got great stuff. It's 20 minutes out of your life, and a lot of more people should watch this stuff. I kid you not. I was in a session at 10 a.m. Katie, you'll appreciate this actually. A professional educator, special education students, a really awesome teacher, reading slides word for word, line by line, right? Yes, that's Katie's response right there is correct. In her defense, Katie, I think she was doing a text to voice type of thing, and then she would go back and elaborate. The people come into your class can read your slides if you should choose to use them. And please take that to heart. It was bizarre. I'm going to switch here for just a second to speaker view. Okay. And then you probably want to see me. Okay, here we go. You don't need to use slides if you don't want to. You can just like go back to what Katie has a few great suggestions for creating some good content. It can just be a guided conversation for some of the topics that we're presenting. It can be a bit more detailed. You can rely on handouts if you want. And that is one of the things that I want to really encourage each and every one of you. And I'm going to copy and paste so I don't get lost here. One of my suggestions is if you have handouts, if you have slides, collateral material that you want to reference, put that all on your Google Drive space for your class. And the very first thing you do when you start your workshop, paste a link to that for all of your participants. And then when you start, say, hey, that link up at the top of the chat up there is something you can reference if you want to. And that way, if somebody wants to go and open your slides or maybe open that handout you're talking about or something, maybe they can't see it on your screen very well because the screen, I'll get to this in a second. They could open up whatever you're referencing and they could watch it on their own. Great for PDF files. Whatever you got. So that's my suggestion. And I know Katie didn't mention that because she wasn't really, when she created those, that was, not knowledge that we had. Another thing, I'll get back to that topic in just a second. Your audio quality, before I forget it, your audio quality is absolutely paramountly important. Most of the folks I listen to were great, but if you have scratchy, staticky problems, it's going to make the life of the participant miserable to try to listen to you for 55 minutes. So please let me know if you want to test your stuff. We can do it on Zoom. We can do it on the platform. Just give me a call, send me an email, say, Mike, I want to test my microphone. Mike, I want to test my mic. That works for me, whatever. That's it. If you think your mic is awesome, okay, cool. We're going to get to other things we kind of came to a conclusion on Friday, our last session. Some of you weren't there.
Mike, I got a question.
Oh, go ahead. That's Tom?
Yeah, not
go
a question
Tom.
Really, but can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a comment.
Go ahead.
My experience is when you put files out on that Google Drive, I highly recommend you put them out as PDFs and not PPTs or DIOCs or whatever, because you have no idea what platform those people are going to download them from.
Yes.
Especially when you put the ones out there, say with an X on the end, because you may have an older version of Office or a non-compatible version. So plus, if you put them out as PDF, it's harder for them to change them.
It is, yes.
When they download them. So just a recommendation.
That's an excellent point. Thank you,
PDF
Tom.
seems to be the universal.
It is, and it is fairly universal. It's
right.
So portable document format. Hey, how about that?
Just my observations on.
And to tail on to that, thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
If you have a DocX, an XLSX, or whatever that you need to have converted to PDF, you're not familiar with that, let me know. I can help you out with that. And we have a bunch of people. Chris can probably help with that. We got a bunch of people that can do that. And it's not challenging. Just some people don't do that on a regular basis. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. We're not going to ask you to go blaze a new trail and write new code or something to make something. So so thank you, Tom. That's a great point.
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate that.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Katie.
So in Zoom, for example, if I put something in the chat and people join afterwards, they can't see chat things that happened before they got there. Do you know if that's the same on this platform?
I'm going to recommend we test that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer. I suspect that it is sticky and everyone can see it, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
So let's go test that in a little while. I know some of you experimented with us on Friday, and if you want to experiment again, that's great. But for those of you who were not there on Friday for our intermediate class and want to go and test your stuff, Dolly got in great. Dolly's rock and roll, ready to go. Ian's probably never been on the platform before, and so on and so forth. Part of what I'm doing here, I didn't do this earlier, was I got some things to tell you. We'll do Q&A and then we'll go experiment. So that's the plan today. Sorry, I didn't start up front with learning objectives. I'm an engineer, not a teacher. Okay. It's okay to let your workshop go a little bit long. These aren't physical classrooms where somebody else has a class starting exactly on the hour and you have to get the heck out so somebody else can get the heck in. Don't worry about it. It's all virtual. And if you notice, we've been experimenting with workshops that we've scheduled for like 5 p.m. on November 7th. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You can also start your class, and I recommend it if you can, 5, maybe 10 minutes early so that you can get in, make sure you got all your stuff, your microphone's working, it all looks okay. And one of the reasons I recommend that is I just read on the tool with the workshop things that we're using. The first 16 people to show up will show up in the Brady Bunch thing. Anybody who shows up after that apparently isn't on screen. And I don't know what happens if somebody turns off their video, if they were number 4, if it reshuffles. I honestly have no idea. We can experiment with that if you want. But I recommend showing up as early as you physically can, as you possibly can, reasonably to start your workshop, get things set up, and then be ready to go. For some folks that have back-to-back classes, I really tried hard not to do that. I wanted to give people breaks, but some people do have back-to-back classes. I'm sorry, but that might be hard. And know that your workshops, one after another, are different. Joe, I'm going to mute you. Your little coffee. Your workshops are different, with the exception of we have 2 classes that are 2 hours long now. Ian, the unit finance is a 2-hour-long session, and then the one that we just scheduled today, the Eagle board share, is 2 hours long. It's one block. So otherwise you're going to be starting a new workshop. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody? Every hour is a new workshop except for those 2 classes.
Mike, I got a question, Mike.
One more, Tom. Okay,
I
you're
know.
full
I'm
of
sorry.
questions today. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I've
You
been
got good
thinking
ones.
been thinking about this all week. You know, sitting here on the East Coast with my mom, I got a lot of time to think.
Oh, you're still out there. Okay.
I am. I come back on Monday. Anyway,
Okay.
my question is, how much time and effort do we put into getting people connected if they have challenges with their videos and their microphones? What do we do? Do we just have to hold the class up until we get everybody in, or how do we do that?
So hopefully that won't be,
because they're not going to be able to test.
right. The participants aren't going to have a lot of time to test things out. So one of the things I was going to say, and I'm glad you brought this up, is, and whenever I get to it, I'll get to it, but I'll reiterate it here, and I'll kind of add it to this particular statement of, if you're having technical issues of any kind, please let us know as early as possible. And I think that falls under what you're saying, Tom, and that if you have a participant, excuse me, that is not able to start to get their microphone working, or they're not able to get their video working or something like that, go notify and probably have somebody else you can use. I'll get to that in a minute too. Have somebody get help for them, and we will have a team of technical people. Pat, take notice. This is part of your thing we'll talk about tomorrow and maybe this evening. That's right. We will have a team of folks to be technical support. We're not expecting you, the presenters, to debug technical issues. Ring the bell and get help. Does that make sense, Tom? And Dolly, whew, yeah, you're welcome. we don't expect you to be the tech experts. We're going to try to recruit folks who can be the tech, or at least know where to go to ask, right? And we'll try to handle that. Hopefully by about 10 o'clock, everyone will have the whole thing figured out. I imagine 9 a.m. to 9:05 might be a little scary for some people, and that's
me.
Now, Tom, you were on Friday, right? So you've been through this. You know what you're up against, but you just never know what might happen.
Right.
And to put a fine point on that for everybody in this room, you probably noticed that you have been invited to a 7 a.m. instructors meeting that is optional on November 7th. It is optional, but is my opportunity. We came up with this idea. Was it Friday or Tuesday, folks? I forget. To have that be your last chance to kind of debug any technical issues before the moment of your class starting. And if you're at all concerned, I'll call it an open house. I'll bring my breakfast in and have it right here, and I'll be here to help if you need it. So come on in. And we'll probably have like a phone number or two, and maybe even a back channel Zoom that we might publish to our staff to go with, hey, if something really goes wrong, ring this bell over here. We'll figure that out. Right, Pat? Okay, awesome. Okay, Tom, any other great, Mike, what? Oh, sorry, who was that?
I would say also, in addition to what you said, the ability for the participant to talk or to be on video isn't paramount to your discussion, because they could certainly text you questions in the chat and participate that way, and they can still hear you.
Okay, so let's do a pull the curtain back a little bit. How long have I been going? I've been at it for 15 minutes. So there are, and Pat will back me up on this. This platform has 2 different ways that we can have a class. The way that we chose is called a workshop. It's very much like Zoom. You're going to be able to have a discussion with your participants. You'll be able to share your screen and all that kind of good stuff. The other way that's actually kind of the default is called a breakout session. And we tested both of these, Pat, that was about 2 weeks ago, a little bit more. And we came to the very quick conclusion that breakout sessions are not the answer for us, because when you as an instructor go in, you are in this, Pat, would you call it like a black hole that you're just talking into, and you can't hear anybody, you can't see anybody, because everybody else does not have their microphone and their video on. It is this one directional lecture. The only back channel you have is via chat, text chat, and Q&A, and the polls that we'll experiment with in a few minutes.
I could not even tell if I had a participant in the room.
Yes, and it was very obvious in the Chief Seattle Council, PTC, to a T, almost every single instructor from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. started their entire thing with, oh, I can't turn on the participant's video or microphone. Oh no. So Huh.
They were fancy with the workshops, huh?
I gave them some feedback, Pat, because we all know it's a gift, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So use that if you have, and Pat's right. It's not absolutely mission critical for your participants to necessarily be able to talk at you or for you to be able to see them, but it really helps with the dialogue, with the questions. So if a participant is saying, oh no, this isn't working for me, ring the bell and get help. We'll come running, or Pat will come running or something. Okay. So we are doing workshops. It's a lot like Zoom. You don't want a breakout session. It's weird. It was bizarre. And ask Pat about it. He'll tell you all day long and twice on Sunday. Okay.
It was
okay, it's okay to get your stuff started early. It's okay to go a bit late. Just remember, if your workshop goes a little bit late, you may have participants that want to go to a different class. Now, we had some classes in the past where people wanted to hang out, especially like the ham radio by, I believe it was Nathan Woods taught that. People wanted to stay and learn about rigs and chat about bandwidth and stuff like that. That's fine. It's okay, but let your participants go and let them know that, oh, it's top of the hour. The next class is starting. If you want to hang out and chat for a few minutes, if you're available and you want to stay, that's great. Don't worry about it. We can be a little bit squishy about these things. Engage your audience. Ask them questions. And I'll talk about this a little bit more in terms of how to engage your audience that I found that really worked. A little extra energy on your part might go a long way in pulling your audience in. And I say that because in the breakout sessions I participated in where I could not talk or my instructors couldn't see me this past Saturday at the PTC, I felt very much removed from what was happening and the person that was talking. It was very much a weird separation. And then one of the classes, they bolted in Zoom, which we can't do, by the way, but they bolted in a Zoom thing. And it was right after lunch, and I came a little early, and the instructor, one of them I had met before, Mike, and oh, they can see me. Oh no, I'll go put my uniform on or whatever. So this does help to engage your audience. And if you reach out through the screen and through your microphone, you will reach your audience. Again, posting a link to your Google Drive class location might help, whether it's early or maybe as you get started and most people have arrived. The chat is a great way to engage your audience. Ask your participants to use it if they want to. They might be quiet. They might kind of just be sitting and listening, and that's okay. But you can ask them to chime in. And there's a couple of things. I've got some ideas here to use them to chime into the chat early. Ask questions like, where are you from? What geographic area of our council or our country? I just sent a list of folks to a list of sort of geographic data. Let me see if I can pull it up because it's really interesting. We are at, and Jennifer, if you're listening, we are at 120 registrants, I think, at this point. Let me check it, 120 even. And I sent this interesting email today because where did it go?
How many of those are instructors?
Less than half, because not all of you have registered. Please register. And I haven't yet gone through and created that diagnostic type thing, but that is a good question.
I do have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Question
regarding that. Will we be able to see how many people are registered for our particular classes before we start them?
I think so. If nothing else,
Mike,
the staff, we can pull that data for you.
Mike, you can actually see that now because I went out to look at my classes. It tells
Okay.
you, it doesn't tell you who. It just says you have X participants registered.
Okay.
For the class.
If you want to reach
I have
out,
0 in one and 2 in the other.
okay. If you want to reach out to your participants, the admin staff has the ability. I'm getting chat, I think, here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Pam. Thank you, Pam. That's exactly who it was. So I was working with Pam today to solve a problem, and this will be interesting for everyone else. We have people from Pacific Harbors Council up in Bonnie Lake, Washington. We have a couple people from Corvallis and Walport, Oregon Trail Council. We have 3 folks from Manhattan Beach, California, Tracy, California, Downey, California, Macon, Georgia, Fargo, North Dakota, West Orange, New Jersey, and North Charleston, South Carolina as of today. So that goes back to what I said last time of if you have, and this is my point to Pam with regard to the Eagle Board Chair class was, if there's anything specific about our council or how we do things or our geography, at least preface it with, for us, this thing is how it works. And for you in a different council, if you're in some different part of the world, might be different, and that's okay. I had a different example on Friday of the hiking thing that I did, right? So thank you, Pam, for pasting that. I appreciate it. Okay.
Okay, I have a question now. So speaking
ahead,
of
Pam.
which, are you going to show it? Well, will we have access to our classroom ahead of time so we can build our surveys or?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, you can start your workshop I pretty much anytime you want, I think. I would recommend, and I think you came in just a little smidge late, Pam. My recommendation was getting there as soon as you can. I would say 15 minutes beforehand if you have the time. Now, Pam, you got a couple back-to-backs, right? So shifting from one to the next is going to be, you're going to be maybe time pressed for your 11 o'clock. And I know that Kara Kirtland and Tim Georgie have a fair number of back-to-back classes. Do the best you can. But yes, Pam, I don't think it takes very long to create a poll. You're talking about creating polls, right? Why don't we experiment with that too? You want to, when we get to that, let's go create a poll and see how it goes. Does that work for you, Pam? All right, awesome. Okay, I only had a few things to get through. You guys are asking great questions. Okay, the chat is great. Use chat early on. Ask people where they're from. One great thing that we used to do in my pack for folks that came to join night is ask the question, what did you come here hoping to learn, or some variation of that? What are you hoping to learn today? What would you like to learn? What topics are you, from this particular topic, are you having a challenging time with, or what challenges do you have that we can help talk about? That kind of stuff. That sparks and gives you, if nothing else, if you run into something to talk about at about 30 minutes in or 40 minutes in, you can go to the chat and say, okay, what do we have for things that you want to talk about? And maybe some of those you already covered, maybe some you haven't, but that'll give you some fodder to put in the cannon and shoot back at your participants. Was there a question? Or must have been my phone buzzing. I'm just going, guys.
No, I have another suggestion too, Mike.
Oh, Jen, was that you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in one of the webinars that I sit in on a lot, because we can't necessarily talk back to them, but they want our feedback, is, put a 1 in the chat if you are new, or put a 2 in the chat. And so because there's so many people on it, it scrolls, but you could get a quick summary sense of your audience and who you're talking to. So if you're talking to a lot of newbies, then you can maybe adjust a little bit what you're saying.
And let me tail on that real quick, because we could do the exact same thing with a poll, like what Pam is talking about. And one of your poll questions could be something along the lines of, are you experienced in scouting? Have you been here a couple of years? Are you fresh, brand new? Stuff like that. And one of the things I was going to recommend, depending on your class, if you're in like a general interest class, you could start a poll of, what is the primary unit that you volunteer with? Pack, troop, crew, district, council. What's your primary position? Scoutmaster, Cubmaster, den leader. You can go to, think about things, especially for your class and your specific thing, for what relates to how you will get to know your audience. Because you can start a poll, ask everyone to participate pretty early on, and then look at the results and say, oh, I have all Scoutmasters here. Well, that's something, or whatever. And something like John Mudd and Dana, who do hammock camping, could ask questions about, have you ever been hammock camping? Never, once, twice. It was horrible. I loved it. And you can get an idea of who's in your class, right?
So Mike, one of the things to be prepared for, I think, is you're going to start to get side conversations on your chat, because
it can happen.
Somebody's going to say, hey, Bill, I remember when we did this. And they start talking about, let's see if they're people who maybe haven't seen each other for a while with COVID. So it's very possible. Don't get dragged into those. Be careful.
I would say, if nothing else, my take on that, Tom, is I'm okay with that as long as it's not distracting me as the instructor. I'm gonna continue on. And one of the things to note, I think I touted really, really early that these would be recorded and we could come back later to them. Unfortunately, with the workshops, they're not recorded. So if they miss something, and you can tell them this up front, you can't go back and watch again. So I would recommend, you came here to learn a thing. Hey, I'm going to try to help learn some things into your brain, if you will, or whatever. Does that tail into what you had to say there, Tom? I think. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, go ahead, Pat.
I had made a comment on there about COVID restrictions
Okay.
for some things that you get into, like outdoor activities. I'm finding I'm doing special awards for Cub Scouts and Scouters, and I am finding the need to modify a great number of slides because rules have changed because of COVID.
Okay, so
Like
here's my take,
everything from
and
JTE to you name
yeah.
it.
Okay, so here's my take on that, and it's just where I come from. I'm planning on teaching one class where what you're talking about is going to have an impact potentially. And the way that I'm gonna do it is, okay, in normal times, this is how this works. And then at the end of that little brief summary of that slide or that content, I will say, okay, what does that mean right now? Because Pat, honest to goodness, I really hope that this all ends as soon as humanly possible and we can be back to outside of these restrictions. It might be a long time, but I kind of want to play both as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody good with that? Yeah, and that works for me. And if you have a different take on it, that's okay. I know that like Joe is teaching, he changed his title to literally being climbing, even with COVID or whatever it was, and that's fine too, because we have to live with this for a while.
Yeah, what
okay.
this is, yeah, what
Local
this is dealing
guidelines should
with
be
where
easy to find.
Yes.
Where the directions have changed for
yes,
slides.
and that would be a fine thing to say, is that also we have people from all over the country. Right now, 10% of our participants are from outside of our council. You could easily say, hey, look, CPC stuff is over here, have a link. And if you're not from the Cascade Pacific Council, check with your local council, your local state, all that stuff. Or
this is all
CDC
national
stuff too.
stuff, actually.
Oh, there's so much stuff. Okay.
Oh,
Tom
yeah,
has a
plenty.
question I want to address. Each class be supported. Okay. You must have watched my intermediate video finally, Tom. The idea here behind Tom's question is, are there going to be people there in your class to support you so that you can present and they can watch the chat, watch the Q&A, and then, hey, Tom, there's a question about really bad jokes over here or whatever, right, Tom? That's the idea. We haven't ironed out all the details yet, right, Pat? Right, Jen? We're working on it, right? That's the idea. We're going to try to leverage as much as we can. Some of you that raised your hand last time and said, I am an IT professional and I'm comfortable with this. Thinking about Henry, Pat said that. Pat's got a bunch of classes. If you are actually in a different class and you're taking a class while you're not teaching, we might ask you to be that person to just watch the chat and then throw a question at the instructor, because that's not a hard thing to do, right? And there's a lot of you that are now you're going to be very comfortable, I hope, with this platform. And Ian, I know you're yawning, but you're on my list too, because you'd be great at that. You've done that kind of thing before. If you're not comfortable with that, Dolly, I'm not going to ask you. It's okay. We understand. So we're going to leverage you. We're going to leverage the professional staff. And hopefully our goal ultimately is to have somebody in every classroom that is the back end, like chat manager. We haven't created a name for it yet. We'll probably find a name tomorrow. Pat, come up with a name by tomorrow. Got it? All right. Pat's on it. Tom, does that answer your question? Okay, very cool. We're almost there, folks. Okay, please, 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 please use inclusive language. I'm really sick of hearing people talk about the boys. Boys should now be scouts or youth members, and Boy Scouts, unless you're talking about the Boy Scouts of America, the national organization, should be scouts, troop members, youth members, whatever. If I hear boys, it better be followed by and girls. And I'm going to get a little bit persnickety about this because, and some of us are having a hard time remembering. I get it, but it's been like 3 years now. Let's come around, folks. Do your best. It was really weird to have, gosh, who was it? Wayne Perry keep talking about the boys. Okay, Wayne, moving on now. Okay, was there another question? My thing's popping up. Workshop assistant. Oh, workshop assistant. Session support, something like that. Pat's got some names he's throwing around. Oh, Katie's got them. Katie's got some ideas. I love Katie. She's got all kinds of great ideas. Okay, so please use inclusive language. I would really appreciate it. For slides, one thing I noticed, and this was from the same session from the person who read a slide word for word. A couple of her slides, the primary content was an image, and that image contained text, or was something that we were supposed to read and decode. And it was hard to see. It was just a little bit fuzzy. if you have, and this is one of the reasons I wanted you to potentially post a link to your Google Drive space so that if somebody can't see the content, they can go get it really quick, download the PDF and get to the, oh, that's what that was. It was actually, what's the hierarchy of needs? Is it Maslow's or something like that? So I understood what she was going for.
Maslow's
But-
hierarchy.
Thank you, Katie. And it totally made sense in context of what she was talking about. I totally got it. But I also wanted to read it so that I could kind of get myself in the mindset. But I couldn't read it because it was all fuzzy, because it was this image that was inside a window. So be careful if you have lots of image content with making sure that it's as big as you can in the slide and as clear as you can. And talk it through. Explain it. If you can't see it, it says this, and this, or whatever. Text comes through really, really well on the text on a slide. It's crisp, it's clear, it works. There's lots of contrast there. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody okay with that? Okay, cool. Henry, does that make sense? Rock and roll.
Could I
Okay.
make a comment on text?
You may, please do.
Don't get too clever with fonts.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. What are some good fonts to use, Joe? Do you know? Are you a font person?
This just the standard ones. Sans serif are
Mhm.
easier on the eyes to read.
Yeah.
When you start getting clever with, oh, I want it to look like handwriting, and it's horrible. So don't get
There's-
clever.
There's a lot of hatred out there for Comic Sans. Be very careful.
Yeah.
And especially if the text and the background are not high contrast from each other.
Yes, it is probably best to stick to a white background and black text. I did not see anybody have black text, white backgrounds. Oh, we also do have, Chris, do we have, is Chris still here? Where's Mr. Bartel? Do we have
Yep, I'm here.
slide
So,
decks?
yeah, I've got, do we want a slide deck? I've got a Google slide deck and I can do it in PowerPoint.
What,
So
what
we
I was
all look-
hoping is that we could kind of offer a
Template.
some templates if you wish.
Yep.
If you're like
I've-
me and you're using stuff from a couple of years ago and it's all built in, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
We don't want you to rebuild the world.
Yeah.
So
There's
So
something to be
Chris-
said about cleanliness, though, I would say, and I can give you guys, guys and gals, everybody,
Chris.
scouts, I can give everybody photography as well. So literally anything you need, let me know. I mean, I can build this stuff out for you. So
Yeah.
it would be nice to make it feel like if I went to, I'm a Coug, so, Washington State University.
Uh-oh.
So if I went to something that was, presented by them, it would be branded, right? If you went to something for U of O, it would be branded. So it would be neat. I'd love that. And I also think what's nice is we were chatting earlier about just the shareability of some of the Google Slide stuff. So there's a slide deck in here. It should be editable. You should be able to make a save as copy. It's real basic, but if we need something where we want to put, gosh, I've got tons of assets. So we've got tons of photography. So if you want something, they're really pro, it's real clean. And on the font thing, I would say just keeping it so, don't get too small with fonts, keep it super clean. I think the best thing to think is Apple, right? When they do a presentation, it's very minimalistic. People are here to see you and your passion and your excitement for it. And so I think that's super helpful too. Now, of course, if there's more important data that needs to be shared, that's good too. But anyway, so let me know and we can have a conversation about that, or just throw it in the chat there, because then I can kind of get my brain around like, okay, what's everybody need, and I can create that stuff.
Teaching moment. Did anybody else be very distracted by Chris's microphone? Anybody else?
I'm just glad it wasn't on my side.
Chris, your microphone's wacky.
Oh, it's horrible. I know. It's either I'm choosing between the two. It's horrible. It's horrible.
So
It
that's
sounds
an
like
You just
example.
got it,
popcorn in
and
the
it
background.
sucks. It's horrible. So we just did I have to actually redo the audio, my part of the audio of our
I have
thing.
my extra SM58.
I love it. I would rather have that. I would love to use my iPods, but I can't because my
Oh.
PC is not happy with me.
Oh yeah.
I use my iPod. It
But
crashes.
that is a great example. Chris had fantastic content for it, for us, and I kept thinking, Chris, fix your microphone. Oh my
Oh, no.
gosh.
And we
it
talked
is
about that
everything.
earlier. It's the
Yeah, we did.
audio is huge, and these things suck. Don't use
Yep.
these.
All right.
Well, yeah, so
Turn it off, actually.
with headphones, yeah, there's a wide variety on the headphones on how good the Bluetooth is, if it's going to be a remote.
And then, of course, our weekly topic.
And that's when audio comes in and starts to, so many learning moments this evening. This is fantastic. Okay. We're going to wrap up the talky part of this. I'll open it up for Q&A real quick, and then we'll go off and do some experimentation. So to reminder for everyone, we did create that instructor's morning meeting, 7 a.m. the day of. It is, as the title states, optional. It is the last final live debug before your class in theory. Open house, 7 to 7:45. If you need somebody to just make sure your microphone doesn't sound like Chris's and your video looks okay, that's the way to do it. And most of you have been, I think, invited to, hold on, I'm going to go ahead and turn the spotlight off because you don't need to see me. Well, are you still on spotlight, Joe? Let's see. Stop the video. Nope. Well, okay. View gallery. Okay, there we go. So, does anybody have any questions or concerns just generally right now?
Is there a way with this new platform that you can kind of like superimpose a picture of you into the presentation so that your students can actually see you? In other words, if you were to have a slideshow.
Oh, okay. I know what you're asking for.
Yeah, if you wanted to put, because there's some platforms that you can do that with,
yes,
some that you can't.
So Pat, I think what happens when you share a slideshow, and we can again experiment with this if you want. I believe what happens is the 16 people that are viewable before you share shrink and become a smaller version down at the bottom, and then what you share is up at the top, I believe. Okay. Let's, Pat, remind us, let's experiment with that in just a few minutes, shall we?
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions, concerns?
I don't have a question, but I do have a helpful note on polls that somebody asked earlier. So if you have already been assigned to the class, because I think we're going to go through and look, and it's in my talks, you can see the talks that are coming up. You can go into those now and preload all of your polls like today, and they will still be there when you come back.
I hope that's the case.
I tried preloading one yesterday, and it's still here today.
It's still there. Okay, cool.
So
now
to do that, how do we do that? So you can start your thing.
Yeah.
It says start your talk.
Yep. So we'll go through an exercise, Joe, and it'll all become clear. I promise. Okay.
Patience.
It's a virtue. Okay.
A rare one.
Katie, I wanted to couch that just a little bit because I learned a couple days ago that with Zoom, I can create a bunch of breakout rooms, but as soon as I hand off host to you, all that goes away. So every once in a while you trip over something and go, oh, I didn't know that. And there's a lot that, oh, I don't know about this platform yet. And we're all still learning.
Totally possible, but it did at least last through 24 hours, which I was encouraged by.
And it's still there. It hasn't expired yet. Okay. Yeah. And I would say, there's probably no harm in going in and setting up some polls now. And if it's still there the day of, then you're rocking and rolling. If for some reason it disappears, you have to do it again. Oh, well. So that's a good suggestion. Anybody else? Questions, answers, concerns? Sorry, Tom?
Yep. So will the program or whatever we're using, will it be recording our sessions automatically, or will we be responsible for that?
Neither.
Or can we? So we can't record at all?
It is not recorded automatically. The other type of class, the breakout session that we are not using because it's horrible, does automatically record. Chris has got some photography for us. Link in the chat. Tom, if you want to set up some sort of a thing on your computer to record from your side, you can do that. I'm not going to recommend that because I don't want to put that on everybody. That's just too much for Dolly.
Okay. So it won't be like Zoom where you can record your session.
That is correct. And actually, honestly, I'm okay with that. I was originally excited about having everything recorded, and then we realized the breakout functionality was really not good for what we usually do with back and forth.
Yeah, I can tell you that's how bad the breakout sessions are.
Yeah.
Because we're like, forget this. We don't
Yeah.
care about recording anymore. Workshops are better.
And honestly, Tom, you know, this is going to be much more like, in this sense, at least, a traditional University of Scouting. If you miss the class, you miss the class. Come next year, right? I mean, it is what it is. You know, we're live, we're in person, and then when it's done, and we're moving on. And every participant will have access to the slides and handouts or whatever you put on the Google Drive that I sent you the link of, and maybe that's enough for them. But to get your wisdom, Tom, on crazy bad jokes, or Katie's wisdom on science or whatever, you got to be in the class. And if not, come next year.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody else?
Just a quick question about, so I have a blue background with white font. Do you think there's going to be a concern with that?
You want to test it?
Yeah, we should.
Let's do that.
Please.
Okay, very cool. All right, I want to go in and make sure that everyone... Hey folks, me from the future here. I am editing this, and I realized what happened was while we were experimenting, I really wanted to capture sort of some of what we were doing in the platform, and I left my microphone live and unmuted in Zoom so that it would capture me. But I forgot that the microphone that I was talking into was not going to capture everyone else who was experimenting on the platform at the same time. So what you're going to see, or sorry, what you're going to hear is me talking and nobody else, but you'll be able to see kind of what we're doing and what we're experimenting with in terms of the polls, the chat, and some of those things. So I'm going to leave this little snippet in here. There's a fair bit where I actually ended up muting my microphone, and that's going to be completely worthless for you to watch. So sorry, this is kind of a long video, but I think this is worth it for you if you didn't have a chance to experiment on either the Friday intermediate session or the Wednesday advanced session. And I'll have a few more interjections here in just a moment. So please continue watching if you might. Stop video. Perfect. Now, hopefully what I'm recording will come through on my screen share for this little adventure. Okay. I don't want my default microphone. I want my good microphone, my web. Hello. Hi. Perfect. Okay, so who tried using the poll feature? Oh, hey, look at that. Katie did. Perfect. Well, I have a lot of experience. I do not like green beans. See, isn't this kind of cool? It's a great way to get things started. And when somebody comes into your class and they're waiting, and you're like, oh, hold on, I got to go bring up my, oh, yes, it should be Friday. Boy, howdy. See? And there's also, so did the polls make sense to everybody so far? Does that, I mean, it's not terribly challenging. So Katie, how long did that take to set up those 3 or 4 things? Was that all you? There you go. And this is like the super collective class. We're all teaching it. It's a panel, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so the thing we learned with Q&A, and I mentioned this, I think, on Friday, is I'm going to start a Q&A. Should Friday be the best day? And that's it. So I'm going to submit a question. And I think any of our participants or instructors or anybody can answer the question, and then the question kind of goes away, I think. Or it can be deleted. Okay, it goes, thanks you. Oh, there are 4 answered already. So it's easy for stuff we noticed on Friday to kind of get lost over there, which might also be, oh, I see the Brady Bunch is getting reoriented up here. Now, Pat, I think Pat Thompson had a question about, Pat, do you have your microphone on? Hey folks, me from the future here. I know it's like an hour after we finished our conversation, but I had a thought and I wanted to make sure I get a little bit of something in here during this quiescent break type period in this little video. If you have original content video that you are creating for your class, as an example, I know our Dutch Oven team is creating some videos to share. You might have some things that you're demonstrating that are easier to demonstrate on a video, and then share that instead of trying to do it live and in person. That's great. we noticed on Friday last time, and I don't think we tried it just now, that sometimes if you try to share that video, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's really hit and miss. And the thing that I wanted to offer and make sure everyone understands that I'm offering this, we have a University of Scouting 2020 Google account that has a YouTube channel applied to it. It just comes along for free with lots and lots of space. And YouTube's really, really good at sharing videos, at analyzing a person's bandwidth and their video screen resolution and all that kind of stuff. If you would like to send me or point me at the original content video that you have so that we can put it up on our YouTube channel, and then I'll send you a link back to say, here's your video link, then that makes it really easy for you to have that as a last ditch option to throw that in the chat. Would work really well. And you get to that point in your conversation and say, hey, I created a video, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to share it. If that doesn't work, here's the link to the YouTube video. Plunk, and if they can't see it from your share, they can at least click on the link and go view it themselves. It actually works pretty well, and it's a great sort of default baseline that you can use. Please know I'm offering that to you. Please don't wait to the very last minute to send me a video. I would hope you'd have it to me at least a couple days before the event, if possible. Thanks, folks. All right, well, we went and we experimented. Hey, Chris is back. Hi, Chris. You're muted.
Just you and me, baby.
That's all right. I think everybody. Oh, Pat's back.
Yeah.
We'll see if anybody shows up for any final questions or whatever. It is kind of a weird platform, right? It's a little.
It's tough because it probably wasn't really, I mean, all this has moved so fast, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, they probably just weren't prepared for something so massive, and before it probably worked fine, but now we have our expectations have gone,
right,
a certain level. And today I was trying to do our webinar, and I can't record audio. It's weird. Like I tried to use GoToWebinar, and I have certain expectations. I can't even do a background thing on GoToWebinar, so I can't have a branded background on GoToWebinar. You got to be kidding me.
Well, that's one of the ones that's been around for a long time. I wonder if they just haven't improved their platform for a while. That's really interesting.
And it works great. Otherwise, it works really good for a whole bunch of reasons.
Sure, we are still recording. Okay, so does anybody have any other thoughts, comments, questions, suggestions, ideas? This is kind of my last opportunity to inform you as best I can about what's going to happen. Beyond 7 a.m. on Saturday the 7th, you can ask whatever you want, but now's a good chance, so I'll open it up.
Yeah, Mike, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I just want to confirm, if I go into one of my sessions,
yes,
my classes, and I say join, right?
Mm-hmm. Or start your talk.
Start my talk. Yep. I can create polls.
Yes.
I can test my screens, my presentations.
You should be able to. Yes.
I can share a screen basically to nobody, but I can share my screen.
Have fun.
Yeah, well, but at least I can see. Should be able to see my slides, right?
Yeah, and in fact, Tom, if you'd like to have somebody come and just work with you on that to make sure that they can see your screen, I'm gonna go ahead and say Pat's over here in my. Okay. I'll throw Pat under the bus, or me. We can help you out if you probably only take about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll wait till I get home on Monday so that I have better bandwidth than I have here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that goes for anybody. If you want to just come in and have a little run, whether it's your workshop or the test one we've been abusing, let us know. We'll support that to make sure that your screen share looks good, your microphone sounds good, stuff like that.
Okay.
That good, Tom?
Yep.
Anybody else? Thoughts, comments, questions?
Yeah, Mike, is it okay if I try to link up with you somewhere once I'm supposed to be getting a Logitech come in on Sunday.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, it'll probably be Monday before I have a chance to get it completely, hooked up in the mic and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm having trouble with it, can I give you a holler?
Absolutely. Yes.
What I had with I did get one Logitech, and the problem I had with is it would link up with my laptop just perfect. But my laptop already has a camera, and I'm not willing. Well, if I use
that sounds like
laptop,
a driver issue, if I had to guess.
No, actually, it's not.
Oh, really?
No, because it's a Microsoft problem. Whenever they created the Windows for a desktop, they didn't wire something into the C615 that would allow it work with a desktop. It'll work with a portable device, but will not work with a desktop. I tried everything, you know, I spent hours like looking for patches and all kind of stuff, and they just said, you know, sometimes you can get it and it'll stay, and sometimes you don't. So I just said, well, fine, I'll just get I think it's a 920 that's coming.
Okay. Well,
so,
the people in this chat, there are at least 3 people in this chat that are IT folk. So we'll just send somebody your direction, I guess.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
They're all going to start dropping the call real quick.
Two electronics technicians in the house, and my son who's sitting in Corvallis. If the 3 of us can't figure out how to make it work, I may switch back over to my laptop. The problem with a plug-in mic with my laptop, we found out, if you plug in a mic with the crazy thing, it grounds out the audio.
That sounds like
go get that. That's hardware. That's a hardware problem with the laptop. But or actually, it can be a software problem too, because we discovered it when I was working on a VVC with the VA. That whenever you plug in a headphone, it grounds out the microphone. But if
that's a bad jam.
If I use my Z300 though, because it's got a chip that it uses, it's a Wi-Fi.
Okay.
It works fine. I just have to make sure that I turn the
I'll tell you what,
down on
Pat,
the computer.
when you get something in, if it bolts in and you'd like to test it out,
better bolt
give me a holler and
okay.
I'll meet you over somewhere and we'll see what happens.
We'll figure. Yeah, we'll have to meet at my desktop.
That's fine. Okay. Anybody else have questions or concerns at this point? I don't want to keep you guys too long.
I'm out of here.
Oh wow, an hour and a half. Okay.
There's a Steve.
I was hoping to keep it to an hour. That was wishful thinking. Last chance. Anybody else? Questions? Jenny, you feeling good?
Yeah.
Okay. Dolly, you're a veteran by now. Joe, how are you feeling with all this? Good. Okay. Tom, Osgood. Yeah. You can deliver some jokes. All right. Steve, this is your.
Easy. He can just keep saying jokes and be like, "This is the class. Write them down."
This is what you signed up for. What else do you want?
An hour with Tom and dad jokes.
There you go. Henry, how about you? All right, awesome. And Steve, this is your second time around, right? Testing this out.
Yeah. So I getting easier on the for me to remember where all the buttons. But I think you're going to have a lot of people in the morning that didn't come to these sessions, going to be freaking out.
Well, part of me says everyone had a chance. I recorded everything. I'm going to post it. And if this is hang on a second, let me spotlight myself so I can really let everyone know this message is important. If you need time to test your stuff, contact me. I will help. It's okay. All right. With that said, there's more in the chat. I'm going to drop off. Okay. Joe dropped off.
Yeah. I think we're all going.
All right.
Pretty much.
Thanks everybody. I appreciate your time.
Have a good night. Stay safe out there.
Hey folks, me from the future. One last time at the end of this video, I wanted to let you know that I am superbly grateful to each and every one of you for your volunteering to teach and what you're volunteering to teach and all that kind of good stuff. I've been scrolling through the list of classes on the platform and looking at the names and kind of just a different visualization of the schedule. And it really gives me kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling like it's going to be okay. Thinking about all these awesome scouters teaching other volunteers, what they know, and you have been chosen because of your level of expertise in a certain topic or many topics, and we really, really appreciate that. I just wanted to give you that little pat on the back to say thank you, and you're here because we really trust you to imbue at least your enthusiasm for a topic, if not everything that you know, spark some interest in people in what it is that you have a lot of love and knowledge behind. And thank you for doing that. So thanks. And I look forward to seeing everybody on November 7th. If there's any issues or questions or concerns, or you need to test your equipment again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thanks, folks.